Hello, welcome back to Press TV's rolling coverage of the revolution in Libya. As we speak, 2 U.S. warships have entered the Mediterranean en route to Libya. This news broke out on Monday of the repositioning when the U.S. announced through its Pentagon outlet through a colonel that they were repositioning their air and naval forces. And at this point, the 2 U.S. warships are entering the Mediterranean to basically position themselves around Libya. Some of the other developments was the speech given in Tripoli by Muammar Kadhafi, about an hour's worth of different statements that he made regarding the situation in Libya, some of which are very contradictory to the facts on the ground and as reported through different outlets of reporters and oppositions inside that country. I want to bring in Rula Talj, who's a political analyst from Beirut, to explain more about the developments in Libya. I guess the immediate question right now that's being focused on, Rula Talj, is the fact of this intervention, which is possibly going to be made either through the U.S. We've also heard certain European countries, and we've also had NATO been thrown into that equation. Can you give us your assessment of the possibilities and what you make of these possible scenarios?
It's a very similar scenario than the one which was conducted by NATO and the U.S. against former Yugoslavian president. I think it's going to be similar to that one. I hear fears in Arab streets and from Arab leaders that they are concerned that it might be similar to the Iraqi invasion, which I doubt very much. The U.S. Army does not have this possibility right now, nor the appetite within the NATO forces to invade Libya. But I'm pretty sure that the more casualties is caused by Muammar Gaddafi's forces against civilians, the closer we are getting to a confrontation through the air, like airstrikes against his headquarters, I guess.
Just a couple of things, Rula Talj. Looking at the latest images coming through from the Suez Canal in terms of those 2 naval ships that are traveling there, and also an updated figure, if you can categorize it that way, coming from a rights group saying that 6,000 have been killed since the start of the unrest in Libya. The question that comes to mind is why would there be considerations made by the United States and certain other countries, and more vocal has it come from the U.S. in terms of even extending arms to the opposition? Meanwhile, the opposition in Libya has said, we don't need your assistance, we don't need your arms, we're able to handle this revolution by ourselves.
There is no doubt that after the fall of the Egyptian regime, which was very much backed by the U.S., the U.S. finds itself in a very difficult position regarding the strategic importance of Libya and Egypt, like Northern Africa, the Suez Canal, and so on. And I find it very difficult to believe that the U.S. will give up its interest in the region so easily. This is on one hand. On the other hand, you also have the oil, and we should not neglect the importance of the Libyan oil to the West. So, of course, they will do anything possible to, on one hand, remove Gaddafi from power, and it's well-deserved. It's a well-deserved move. On the other hand, they would like to ensure a new government that is pro-American, through which they will try to save their strategic, let's say, interest in the region, and those of Israel as well.
We're going to ask you to stay with us. We're going to take a look at a report that's sent from our correspondent, John Hafiz, from Ajdabiya as to what is going on in the ground there. Let's take a look at that.
The fight is far from over for the revolutionaries in the sovereign eastern territory of Libya. Here in Ajdabiya, 160 kilometers to the south of Benghazi, checkpoints are set up to ensure Gaddafi forces do not attack the city. Maintaining security involves everyone, even civilian volunteers.
I'm a volunteer for the people of the February 17th revolution. My friend here was a member of the police of the city of Ajdabiya before defecting. He has come to train us how to secure a checkpoint.
The city of Ajdabiya has been under attack by Kadhafi forces. Since the revolution ousted the Kadhafi government from the east, Kadhafi has sent planes to bomb this city. However, the pilots either aborted the mission or missed the target, some believe on purpose. One of the main military installations before the city of Benghazi, military officials who have defected from the Kadhafi regime tell us they're well equipped for any kind of attack coming from the west.
I have been trained in sub-7s, RPGs, anti-aircraft guns and small arms. There are many army specialists who have defected from Gaddafi and are working with the people to teach them how to use guns and weapons.
Government buildings in Ajdabiya have been burned, and images of Muammar al-Gaddafi, once omnipresent, have been replaced by billboards of the revolution. However, reports of the USS Enterprise Navy ship positioning itself off the coast of Libya has many worried any kind of US involvement will lead to invasion and occupation, something Libyans overwhelmingly reject.
The people say, you need America support it! No! You need America support it! No, speaking
We got weapons from the army and we will fight ourselves. Will we allow the Americans on our soil? Never.
In the center of Ajdabiya, demonstrations against Gaddafi continue. Protesters hung an effigy of the president, stomped on the green flag Gaddafi inaugurated in 1977, and burnt the so-called Green Book that contains his political philosophy. The fear of bombardment does not worry the residents of Ajdabiya. Inspired by the towns and regions which have fallen under the control of the popular revolution, they stand strong in the fight against the man who has ruled this country for nearly half a century. Jahan Hafiz for Press TV in Ajdabiya, Libya.
Okay, very good. If we still have Rula Talj with us, I'd like to extend to her a question regarding some of the sentiments of the Libyans there. Rula Talj, I find it very interesting that you have 30 or 40 years of this rule by Muammar Gaddafi, and then you have the U.S. after all this time extend themselves. Here we have, like an example, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Susan Rice. The United States has already contacted a range of opposition leaders to help them form organizations, political parties, and entities, quote, that they feel are justified and warranted. I don't quite understand how they can think that they can be part of the political process. Doesn't that violate the sovereignty of a nation, given that A, they were witness to what was occurring in the past 30, 40 years, and B, in terms of a lack of familiarity of what's really going on the ground, in this case in point being Libya?
You know, Kaveh, let's not forget that the U.S. was busy the last 30 years with the Cold War, and with you know, the Cold War took a lot of time, and at the end of the day, with President Gorbachev, it came to an end, and then they had to go on further and divide Eastern Europe and the old USSR. And after which, the Muslim world became an important strategic focus to U.S. politics, external U.S. politics. And ever since the fall of USSR, many think tanks and many agencies in the U.S. we're trying to find a solution for the growing number of Muslims throughout the world. And we have seen since September 11th many maneuvers through the Egyptian former President Mubarak and through other leaders in the region. They were trying to find a way to clash Sunnis and Shias in the Middle East in order to let the Muslims focus on each other, focus on killing each other, on dividing the region, instead of focusing on growing in the West and mainly in the U.S. And let's not forget that Islam is the most growing religion in the U.S. today and in most of European countries. So there is no doubt that the Muslim world is a #1 focus in the U.S. And when you ask me about Libya, I find that now with the revolutions, the Libyan Kadhafi's attitude towards the demonstrators and the vicious manner he's dealing with them is giving an excuse to the U.S. to reinforce its presence in Northern Africa.
And of course, we have to wait.
I'm not.
Go ahead.
Yes. The question is, like, if one has to ask a question to the Americans, why we never saw them as keen to stop Israelis from killing Palestinians during the Gaza war or even against Lebanon in 2006. You know, it is true that maybe 6,000 people died in Libya, and the world has to do something to stop Gaddafi from his murders. But the question is, why, when 3,000 civilians died in southern Lebanon, the U.S. was opposing a ceasefire between the Israelis and the Lebanese resistance? And the same thing with Palestine and Gaza. And so if we see that the Americans are trying to stop Gaddafi today, on a human level, it's amazing. It's a very good move. But when we see the bystander attitude and behavior of the U.S. in the region, that's where I start wondering and asking questions. Why?
Well, I want to look at this through your eyes in terms of the U.S. foreign policy. When we dissect it, don't you think that the U.S. made a very faulty error of judgment in terms of not having contact with oppositions throughout the years? We can see how pretty much cutting off the opposition, not establishing communication with them, has led to some foreign policy failures of the U.S. We could mention Lebanon. We could mention even Hamas, which was a democratically elected government there in the Gaza Strip. But the mere fact that they didn't have this communication established as to, for them perhaps to at least safeguard themselves for the times that they're witnessing right now, these uprisings and revolutions. And now the U.S. trying to maintain some kind of relationship with the opposition. I don't quite understand the decision-making process there.
I don't agree with you. I think the U.S. Has been building very quietly close ties with oppositions throughout the Middle East. Let's say in Egypt and elsewhere. But of course it was a shy and done very quietly because of the official support they gave to President Mubarak. But they always have supported the opposition in Egypt and in other countries. I'm not sure about Libya because Libya has been a very difficult place for the Americans to deal with. And Gaddafi was known for having everybody under very serious scrutiny in his country. So maybe the Libyan opposition is different. But you do see some major opposition figures throughout the world, and they've been having quite an interesting support of the U.S. and other countries.
Of course,
but how effective are they?
I found it interesting. David Cameron went to Egypt and didn't establish any communication with the Muslim Brotherhood, but reached out to the youth movement. I ask you to stay with us, Ruhollah Talj. We want to take a look at some sound bites of what we've received from the town of Benghazi. Let's take a listen to what they are.
He just wants to show the world that there is, he can control the country. He still has the power to show his control to this country, but that's not true.
You know, he's a killer, you know, and he likes to show the world that he's still strong, but he's not strong anymore, you see.
الحمد لله كما انت شايف اهو في استعدادات في سواء بسلاح 14.5 او الصواريخ الحراريه. الحمد لله متمركزين في بنغازي كلها وان شاء الله هنصد اي هجوم.
Okay, we just heard some people there from Benghazi. We will tell again, just to continue on this conversation regarding the U.S. and, well, we can mention some EU countries also. I mentioned David Cameron going to Egypt, including just recently 2 U.S. senators, Lieberman and McCain being there. Do you think there's something wrong with officials visiting these countries at this point in time when they are just fresh from a revolution?
Hello?
Yes, will it help?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's political immaturity and stubbornness which is leading the U.S. and the Brits like to alienate those parties who are part of the Egyptian society, and they were like the main players in those demonstrations. Whether you like it or not, whether they like it or not, actually, the brothers are part of the Egyptian society, and sooner or later the West will have to deal with them as such if they want to secure some of their interest in Egypt. By alienating these parties, they are the biggest losers.
And when you say
yes,
when you say alienating these parties, you're talking about the U.S. and the EU countries, I assume.
Yes, I'm talking about the U.S. or David Cameron when he came to Egypt and did not meet with any representative of the brothers. By not meeting with them, he's not removing any credibility from them or legitimacy. He's just alienating those people. And what if in the next few months they get majority in parliament? How would the relation with Egypt continue on a normal basis?
Let's look at some of the other countries. Let's look at Tunisia, in which the Nahda is now can legally obviously go and have representation, and we could also look at other countries that perhaps comes to light, of which the U.S. and the West in general has opted not to have any real formal type dialogue with them.
Exactly. No, they've been like this for the longest time. In Lebanon also, they never met with the Hezbollah representatives, although Hezbollah are ministers and the members of parliament. But by doing this, they just the gap is growing. Hezbollah is here, Hamas is there in Gaza, and like these components of the society are remaining, and their power is growing in their countries. The immaturity is that by not talking to them, the West is digging like a deeper grave in the relation between them and those countries they represent.
And just putting all the pieces together, if this is a forecast, if the U.S., if the West, or any NATO countries go inside Libya, they're going to pick and choose which opposition they're going to side with. So what are the consequences of these types of actions that is going to evolve, in this case in point Libya?
I don't see that the West, NATO, or anybody would want to go into Libya. What could be done is an airstrike against Kadhafi's headquarters, and unfortunately Kadhafi will not go to trial. Most probably Kadhafi will be killed in his headquarters under the bombs of NATO and the U.S.
Okay, and one final question that I want to put to you. We look at how the Arab League and the OIC have come out, the most prominent overall organizations in terms of rejecting any type of military intervention. Do you think the Arab League and its countries have done enough, or what haven't they done that perhaps you can shed light on?
To be honest with you, I think there is no such a thing anymore called the Arab League. The Arab League failed us Lebanese during the war of 2006 and failed the Palestinians during the Gaza war. They all stood against Hamas, they stood against Hezbollah, and in their own way they gave legitimacy to Israel to keep on bombarding our children and women, killing our innocent civilians. So as of today, I'm the wrong person to ask. I don't believe in the Arab League, and I think they are useless. And after these revolutions come to an end, and the change in the Middle East should also start with the Arab League and with the concept of the Arab League and its main mission. I think they are not capable of doing anything to prevent a NATO strike against the Libyan dictator.
Real Tal, political analyst from Beirut. It's always a pleasure to have you. Looking at some of the recent developments while we were talking, one is the fact that death toll may be up to 6,000, and that's quite a high number, double of some of the earlier estimates, and of course the 2 U.S. warships entering the Mediterranean en route to Libya through the Suez Canal. Of course, we're going to give you more on our rolling coverage here on Press TV. Stay with us in a few minutes' time.